Hello, my beautiful friends, and of course, my fellow space blobs. We are about to have, I hope, a really restorative, curious conversation that I hope will inspire you with this new moon in Gemini that we are heading toward, and will maybe connect some dots and make you feel a little bit of freedom and lightness and play in this whole process. I know that I have been loving this moon cycle. I love working with the Sagittarius Gemini axis. I find it to be one of my big inspirations in life as a Sag rising. And so I really was thriving off of that recent full moon we had in Sagittarius. So coming into this new moon, it really complements that full moon in really beautiful ways. At its core, this moon is saying that to create an intentional dreaming practice and to practice dreaming in our lives in general is essential for living life here. So our culture has a lot of disdain for dreaming, right? Even though I think that that's changing and we're having more conversations about it and we're exploring it more, there's a lot of disdain for creating dreaming practices, for creating rest practices that include using our imagination to care for ourselves, to care for our communities, and to care for our lives. And a couple books I can recommend that really are inspirational on this topic are going to be Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey and All About Love by Bell Hooks, or anything by Bell Hooks. They are very inspirational and they've done the really important work on this. So just want to put that first and foremost. But I think that they really have inspired me a lot in this work and have inspired this conversation in so many ways. But I agree with so much of what they write, which is that dreaming is essential, that rethinking the way we think about our systems and our life matter, and that it's not just some frivolous thing that we do on the side. Because this new moon is really interesting. It's a new moon at 26 degrees of Gemini, so sun and moon are conjunct over there, and they're squaring Neptune in Pisces. And I think a lot of times when we hear conversations with Neptune and Pisces, when we're talking about squares, a lot of this drama comes up where it's like, well, you can't rely on your old obsessions and addictions anymore. You need to get real, and you need to think about how you're telling yourself stories. And I find that narrative to be so unhelpful and kind of uninteresting at this point. And so I'm going to offer up something that's a little bit different when it comes to this new moon and how to work with it. So first off, just this concept of daydreaming and fantasy, right? We so often think about that, I think, and I'm not speaking for everybody here, but in general, when it's just being brought up in a broader sense, it's kind of like these pink cloud fantasies, right? Like just frivolous, frothy things, which, by the way, having some fun, playful daydreams, nothing wrong with that. That's also so powerful and so beautiful and has value in just purely being able to exist and enjoy coming up with beautiful things in our minds. But daydreaming and fantasy goes somewhere deeper too, right? It goes to honoring the type of dreams that we're creating, honoring the type of imagination we're using to imagine more beautiful places in the world, to imagine new ways that we can be doing things. And this not only works on a personal level, this works on a collective level. When we allow ourselves to dream into places of softness and safety and security and just imagine what that feels like, we're also offering up more energy to the world, to our communities. We're also able to connect more and think about how to build and create in new ways. And I really think that daydreaming and fantasy and creating intentional space for dreaming makes life livable. It makes life meaningful. It makes life vibrant and full of color. And so this square with Neptune is really an invitation to honor that. To honor that maybe we need to give ourselves the permission to create dreaming spaces in our lives, and that this is valuable. It has value. And not just for us to produce the next thing, to manifest the luxury villas or whatever that, I think the social media version of daydreaming will often sell us. Daydreaming is going to be about daydreaming quality of emotion. Daydreaming is going to be about daydreaming into the simplicity of some of the things that we are longing for. It's going to look unique to each of us, but it's just right off the bat in honoring that this is an important part of the work. And I think it's also a great moment. New moons are about planting seeds, and daydreaming in its essence already is just questioning why our culture is so dedicated to castigating fantasy and dream and to judging when we need to have escapism in our lives, when we need to go into the land of fantasy. There's a reason for that. And I think it's very interesting we have so much judgment around fantasy and coping mechanisms and escapism when there's a very good reason those are there. And that's a whole other conversation I wish I had time to get into today. But yeah, so that's the first aspect of this new moon. The other thing that I think is really interesting here with a square with Neptune like this is that this is a really great time as well to explore our dream space, explore the dreams that maybe we've been having in our fantasy world over the last few years or months, and just looking through them and noticing which ones are fitting with us and which ones just don't fit us anymore. I think that the square with Neptune can help us understand, like, some dreams, they start off as something that really excites us and holds us, and we do all this stuff with it. And then we change, we shift, we grow, our frequency changes, our dreams change, the way we envision the world changes. And sometimes we're still holding on to old dreams. And sometimes those old dreams can kind of turn into a little bit of haunted houses. They kind of follow us around, and we have them in our mind that we need to still be fulfilling those dreams. We still need to be embodying those dreams, even when it doesn't feel very natural to us. So this new moon is also really helpful in creating a little bit of space to explore what dreams we don't need to carry anymore, and that it's okay to release them a little bit. And along with that is a creating of spaciousness for the mystery of new dreams to come in. This is something I'm going to be doing on our activation over on Patreon, where I give us a visualization, a little quiet moment to really work with this. So if you're looking for a little bit of support, I'd love to see you over there, because I'm going to really delineate how to get into that mystery dream space where we're leaving some space for new dreams to start to blossom, both from within ourselves and also from just life force wanting to interact with us and love us and connect with us. So this is about kind of clearing some space for that and creating some spaciousness and feeling the lightness of that. Because at its core as well, a Gemini new moon is going to be about our storytelling. It's going to be about the use of our minds and ideas and how we connect that with our fantasies and daydreaming, and how that plays a really significant role in how we move through the world. I also wanted to mention before we get into the cards that this new moon is happening at the same time that Saturn is beginning its season of retrograde, which will go until November 4th in Pisces. So we just have started our journey with Saturn in Pisces, right? That started in March of this year. And a lot of times I feel like we'll see narratives around Saturn in Pisces and Saturn retrograde in general as being this time of very stern frustration, where projects that you wanted to get done just aren't getting done, where you want to move forward, but because Saturn's retrograde, nothing can happen. And I just think our culture doesn't have another script for connecting with Saturn. We haven't used our imaginations and our fantasies to start to create new ones, though I know many of you have done that, and many of us are doing that. So I'm going to give everybody credit. So I'm not trying to say that we're all just thinking the same thing. I think we're all questioning why we have this relationship with Saturn, why we have this relationship with the way we treat ourselves when it comes to our need for escapism and fantasy. But I think for me, this is a really great time to get a little bit more familiar with Saturn in Pisces and what that logic is, which is that we can't hold tight to linear control. We can't rely on the to-do lists and the control of ourselves and the rigidity and the structure to be the thing that gives us joy in life, offers us safety, offers us creativity and options and a way forward. That is one of the key central tenets of Saturn in Pisces. And so these next, 5 months are going to be a chance for us to understand that and work with that a little bit more and integrate it in a clearer way, so that we are starting to work from more of an intuitive place with ourselves, with our rhythms in a day, in a week, that it's not this static line where we have the same productivity at all times, that it's meant to undulate. So this new moon is also going to be just a moment of maybe honoring that we are meant to undulate, that we are meant to have fantasy times, that we are meant to have dream time, that we are meant to connect with it, that we are not meant to constantly be external, that we are not meant to constantly have to perform or have the same productivity level. This new moon really ushers in a sacred moment of recognition that we are built with curves and undulations in our bodies, in the world we live in, that it's natural, and that we can lean more into that safely. Really, that's the affirmation for this. You can lean into your intuition and the undulations of your energy and your inspiration and your wanting to be outward or inward a lot more heavily, and with safety. It is safe to do that. You are safe to do that. So those are the big things going on with this new moon. I am feeling so passionate about it. I feel really strongly about this. I think we are all needing and longing for that re-entrance into dream time and to dream space, and to take care of that part of ourselves. And what an important and powerful tool it is in our lives. Like, what amazing information is waiting there, and what amazing refreshment and nourishment is waiting there as well. And not for any other purpose than to just feel fresh and nourished, not to go do more stuff, but to care for our dreams and to just enjoy the fact that we can dream. Let's see what the cards want to say. Seven of Swords, a classic. I often call this one the imposter syndrome card, and I will tell you about that in a second. I just want to see what else is coming out here in our conversation. Queen of Wands, yes. What a dynamic duo. Seven of Swords and Queen of Wands. Very, very different ways of approaching life. I would say those are it's a really illustrative, helpful pairing, I think. So I want to pull, two more cards apparently. Ten of Wands and Ace of Pentacles. Also so perfect with the dynamics of this new moon. Endings and beginnings. Release and embrace. Exhale, inhale. That is very much the energy of this new moon and what it's kind of leaning us toward. So let's get into this right away. Imposter syndrome. So Seven of Swords, it really represents the part of ourselves that feels like we have to sneak around, that we're not allowed to exist. We're not allowed to exist the way that we exist, that it's kind of embarrassing. So we have to kind of sneak around. And maybe we feel like other people are sneaking around, because we kind of all are. We're all trying to uphold these cultural scripts, and nobody wants to acknowledge that all these things are happening. Seven of Swords really represents that to me, the fact that we all feel we have to do this, do this dance, because this represents somebody who's disarming his enemy under the cover of night by stealing their weaponry in secret. But for me, this is really about what it feels like when we feel like this is how we have to live our lives. So right away, like I mentioned at the beginning, this addresses that part of ourselves that feels we are getting away with something if we want to daydream, if we want to have escapism, if we want to live in a world of fantasies, if we want to allow ourselves to dream in ways that feel really good. It's important that we address that there's a part of us that says, that's not allowed. You're not worthy of that. That's selfish. That's immature, whatever it is. And this card really recognizes that energy. And I think it's so powerful to realize that a lot of us have that internal monologue and feel that we aren't allowed to do this. Now, to match that, we have Queen of Wands. And Queen of Wands is often described as kind of brazen because she's just taken her space, when you look at her, she's very leonine. So Leo energy, which is all about the courage of the heart and leading with the heart, moving outward that way. But the Queen of Wands is very much like, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I exist, and I'm going to do what I want to do in the way that I want to do it. I am going to take up space. She's notoriously sitting with her knees spread apart, which suggests that she is not trying to be tiny, and, she's creative. She is creating, and she's open to that. And so this is the other side of the element, the brazenness of daydreaming, of honoring your dream space and doing that intentionally. And I think this is a really nice illustration of that interesting dialogue inside. Now, on the other side, this makes me think about that idea I said of letting go of dreams that no longer fit and making space for new dreams that want to come in, holding some mysterious space. Ten of Wands is holding the weight of all the dreams, all the ideas, all the personalities and identities that we think we need to carry through life, right? Ten of Wands is that point where we've done a lot. We've probably created and moved through so much and mastered so much and have done amazing things. So it's not to disparage those 10 wands and all that we have done with them. But they start to get heavy when it's time for us to shift, right? They start to feel cumbersome and strange and unwieldy when we're longing for the next cycle. So 10 of Wands is an invitation to notice what dreams are feeling burdensome, what ideas, fantasies, projects are feeling heavy, and to release them. Followed by the Ace of Pentacles, which to me, this is such a mystical card. All the aces are very mystical, but this one always hits me in a special way. This hand coming out of the clouds with this beautiful pentacle held in its hand. It's like this magic ingredient that maybe we didn't even know we needed. A magical new interest, idea, longing, hope, joy that we didn't even know we needed. And this is where I think it's really important to hold a little bit of open space during this time, during this new moon, to see what wants to flow in that way. So these are beautiful cards. I love them. I'm sure you all would have beautiful interpretations of what you see here, and I'd love to hear that in the comments. So if you have input about like what this new moon means to you, how you connect with fantasy, escapism, what you think about that, I'd love to hear what you think and for you to stick around here. So if you don't want to miss more of these conversations, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, and like this video because it really helps me share this work with more people and to continue to do this work. I love being here so much. And like I mentioned on Patreon, I'm going to help us get into dream space a little bit more, help us initiate into that temple of dream space. We're going to do a little meditation visualization over there. I do one for each and every new and full moon, and I really love offering that space. So I'd love to see you there, as well as coming up starting in July, we are going to be having a deep dive on Venus retrograde. We're going to have a 6-week series of a journey, and I'm going to be leading us through all of that, as well as resources for the new North Node placement in Aries starting in July, and a whole bunch of other resources. I mean, it is a library of resources over there. So if you're looking for support, I'd love to see you on Patreon. And I'd love to see you here and on my Instagram, and I will leave all the links to know where to find me below. I love you all so much. I appreciate every single one of you bright spirits out there. I will see you in the very near future. Have a beautiful new moon in Gemini.